6, we be in the mix with that rare candy paint job on the whip. I need food for the kids, money for the rent. Fuck a lockdown, baby, I can't do that shit. And I don't never vote, cause I'm fucking broke. And either way, I know the police ain't gon' leave me alone. On a plane, bout to visit Glen Rock. Need crypto, told me I should bring the Glock with me. So I packed up my piece and I'm sliding. Cause we might get caught up in a riot. Middle finger Trump, middle finger Biden. Fuck a left, fuck a right, is you riding? Know you love to see it, dudes rocking. Ain't no politics, baby, we just talking. From the birds to the bricks, we be in the mix with that rare candy paint job on the whip. Who you with?
Why don't you eat your leftovers? It's over, I've already won. I made a lot of mistakes, now I'm looking at one. Yeah, it's over, I came and I swung. You've had a lot of bad dreams, now you're living in one. I think you meant it, you said you regret it, but if that were true, you'd be here to cement it. I warned you that people adore you, so why the no thanks when I tried to support you? A saint meets a loner, it's you in my corner. The tan from the light of my phone, this disorder is testing, it's messy, the headline's depressing. If only my favorite artist would text me. Leftovers, it's over, I've already won. I made a lot of mistakes, now I'm looking at one. Yeah, it's over, I came and I
Right, you just heard Leftovers by Mario Cuomo, and what a coincidence. He's here with us right now. Mario, first off, thanks for joining us. And second off, I think you got a real hit on your hands, man. Like it's really catchy. I mean,
thank you, man.
My wife and I, it reminds us like kind of it's its own new song, but it reminds me of a certain era of like when we were first dating back in like the 2010s, like late 2000, late aughts, early 2010s, when like you would still hear music that had heavy guitar and a catchy hook that was meant to like have fun and also be a little kind of like mean spirited slightly, like all the emotions that touched on. We just don't see that anymore. So tell me about Tell me about how, the making of Leftovers. You have a video directed by J. Curtis Miller, whom I am familiar with from social media, though we've never spoken, but the video's excellent. But this is a single. Is this leading to an album? Is this, or is this just something you wanted to get out there? Yeah.
Hopefully I would like to go full length with this. I don't know where it's going to fall, on a full length album, or if I end up doing like more of like a strong EP or whatever I can, go for this year. But I mean, Jay totally just destroyed the video with this like loose idea that I had, and I went down to Nashville and he made some magic happen in like 5 hours. That whole video was shot, and I was like, what if we had 10? But no, like it turned out really sweet. And the song I just thought it was like kind of the demo that I was happiest with, and I'm like kind of a sucker for like hooky poppy choruses, and grew up on a lot of like Weezer, and I think that there's definitely a lot of alternative rock. If I was pulling from anything, it's a lot of gotta tip the hat to the old Rivers Cuomo, because I think he definitely his work inspired a lot of sounds on that track.
Obviously, you guys are related, right? Rivers Cuomo.
Obviously, that's my uncle who meditates 2 hours a day. No,
obviously.
No, I got to meet him, and we got to, tour together, like years ago in Europe, and I had just a really cool experience with him towards the end of the tour, and he just kind of came into the green room and checked up on me because my voice was gone due to. Probably due more so to like vodka and talking all night, but it still got the best of me. And so he just came in and made sure I was all good. And he said, he wasn't feeling so hot either. But that was one of like the best, it really was one of the best touring experiences I ever had. And to have somebody that you had on your iPod treat you so nicely and like be so accommodating, and you're like, dude, I went to sleep in like second grade and stayed up late with like my iPod to your shit. Like, this is weird.
I got the Blue album for either a birthday or Christmas one year, and just wore it. I didn't even know what it was. Like I had like really cool family members that were older than me, and I just blew out, and I just wore it out. It was a little roughly around the same time as Dookie, I think a little bit after Dookie. So those two albums just like simultaneously going on off and on and stuff. I heard Rivers Cuomo, like again, this is just secondhand stuff. I've heard there's some like stories about him being kind of a prick. Like, really? Have you heard those too? Yeah, I don't know. I just, people are like, oh, that guy, man, he's just, so tough to deal with.
I have nothing to, I only have a few experiences, but every time that we encountered them on that tour, and just like the little things that they did for my band that was like, like letting us like have like full reign of like their catering and like having their crew guys like move our shit on stage just because they were there and they were like, yeah, we got you. Like just like stuff like that where like
sick.
Some people that are at that level, like they don't offer that sort of accommodation. Like you're just lucky to, you're just lucky to be there. And they kind of went about being the, the bigger band in like the nicest way possible. And I'm not trying to like say I met like a bunch of fucking huge rock stars, but like they were definitely by far the nicest.
Oh man. Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear because I've always loved Weezer. But
so that's all I got is good. All I got is Rivers is the nicest guy stories. So I don't know what, that's all I could base.
No, this is all just like, oh, I heard this guy one time was, I mean, hearsay is hearsay. I never put much stock into it, but that was like just from a few. I think I had known maybe somebody in another band probably wasn't that good of a band now that I think about it. And I feel like that might've come into play, like kind of like they expected more out of their interaction. Like, there's kind of these like these kind of like, you'd imagine, like, let's say I met Joe Rogan, right? Let's just say I met him, and I was like, hey, dude, listen to our show. And then like he listened and it was like, ass, this is ass, and I'd be like, Joe Rogan's a dick. I'd be like, well, not really. Like he could just be like, I just wasn't really vibing with those guys. I would be crushed, by the way.
It is. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's pretty situational. Those like, those encounters, maybe it's, I mean, there's definitely always like a time and place, and probably, there's better scenarios to meet somebody. Like, I mean, he didn't like have to meet us, but like, we're on tour with them. We're sharing a back area. We're passing by each other. Like, it's probably a little bit, he probably wants to be a little bit nicer to the people that are opening the show. But I mean, yeah, it depends when you catch somebody. You never know what day they're having.
You also have the, you are on tour with them. There's also just the band that's local that just opens up. True, and I'm pretty sure that's the scenario I was describing, where it was like, dude, this is only going to be in, Santa Cruz, California. Dude.
Right.
Yeah. Like this is only going to be there. Like where I don't have to be nice to this guy. I get it. Like you can't just be like, rock star cool guy, like to everybody, especially when you're on whatever leg of a long tour. But you were, you were talking about the catchiness, how you value that, and I think that's great. And your work with the Orwells, and then spanning into and spanning into your solo work right now. You manage, that's two different sounds, largely.
Right.
That's two different sounds.
I would hope so.
Yeah, but there's still that degree of catchiness in the vocals that I think, for me, somebody who never got super into, not to peg it down, but like garage rock, I kind of just like classic boomer dad rock in the garage. Like I kind of is what I like. But to hear that catchiness and kind of like that really cool, like gritty, muddy sound and stuff, like it brought me a little bit, and I don't know if you're a big fan of this guy or not, but I was thinking Julian Casablancas a lot. I just in my head. The Strokes. Are you? Well, is that an influence?
You caught me rocking his.
I didn't even see
his record label's shirt and my Super Mario pajama pants.
Well, there you go.
Very New York fitted right now. But,
so Julian,
like my two probably top influences is probably him and Rivers. So if there's like, if there's sounding similar to any of their work. It's kind of like because
Yeah.
those were my two favorite bands, so it's just kind of like they spawned whatever I make in a way.
I've always hated biting, like when people say like biting. It's clear when someone's stealing a sound and when somebody's like grew up listening to them.
Right.
It's so easy, and people act like it's so, like people act like it's so, oh no, that biter. Like nobody is patient zero. Nobody invented rock. I mean, at this point, anybody you're gonna hear nowadays invented we are in like a postmodern society. So you really are going to be what your iPod was in a sense, right? Like growing up and what you listened to throughout the years. And I that's kind of, I've never understood the whole, like, don't say I sound like this guy. I'm like, I don't say you sound like it. I see the lineage, like I see that their sound survives through. That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah,
like the Stones don't sound like Chuck Berry. They don't sound like him, but it's clear that's where they got a lot of stuff from,
Totally. You should be able to hear some influences. I think the only thing that people get like upset about is like if there's maybe a jacking melodies. There's like the nitty gritty of it where it's like, well, that maybe that just sounds like this because it's in the same key, but it's not necessarily the same chord change, or there's like, but sometimes it is the same chord change and the vocals are differently, and then it's enough of a different sound where you're not totally stepping on somebody's toes, but there might be some super fans out there putting, A-being songs and being like, well, wait a second. And, but I mean, I think if I made something, I mean, this is a fear of mine for sure, that like, maybe I think I came up with something great and somebody sends me something that I've heard before and I didn't think about it. And all of a sudden I was like, ooh, like accidentally like jacking a melody or something would definitely feel, I would be embarrassed kind of. So I am afraid of something like that. Like, getting too influenced, like that's a little scary. And if that were to happen though, I think if that were to happen and it was like embarrassing to me, I think I would be able to be like, I fucked up. And I think I would take down the song.
Or just be like, damn, you know what? Like, honestly, like I didn't realize it, but I'd heard it and it stayed in my head. And years and years later, I mean, look, you'd get a lot of shit for it. Me, I know how that works. Like dude, you know how many times I've like talked to somebody privately and then like on their podcast, I've heard like literally the thing that I told them as their original thought. And it's like, partially I'm kind of like, all right, whatever. But we were chatting, like, we're all sponges in a way, like nobody is this kind of like, oh no, everything. I'm just walled away from everybody. I only know what I know. And a lot of times those people are kind of just like narcissists in a way. And like, they find a way to just kind of pump themselves up. And, I like that there is like a tethering to, cause I'm kind of a normie rock fan. I love that there's this like tethering.
Don't get me wrong. Like I still think like Pink Floyd's like a better band than like all the garage rock movement of like the last, 15 fucking years. Like I still think that they're like, I'm down to give, the elders that deserve all that praise. Like I know what they did, and I'm still like, yeah, that like Pink Floyd comes on the radio, and like I don't change it, and like I show my respect, and I'm like, this is unfucking believable that this was created. So like, part of me is like, I don't look at like the whatever movement I was like a part of in the last decade as like. I don't know. It's weird, like being on the inside of it and like thinking about like who really got to like, make a living and like who changed with, I don't know. Cause I don't think about like just like one album or like just a certain time period. I like think about them as like a person and like what they're doing now. And like, did their sound change? Did they like totally pigeonhole themselves? Like, I think about it too much, honestly, but I can't help but kind of like put myself in their shoes as far as like when they fucking entered the game, what sounded like them, what band is out now that is because of them. It's like there's a lot that goes into it.
We're going to get you right back to the episode, but I just wanted to let you guys know of a few other things we offer at Rare Candy Industries. We have a Substack with free and paid subscription options. Free subscribers get access to all written content. That includes Bob's Red Pill. That's the best thing going on the internet right now. Trust me. Paid subscribers get full access to our premium episode feed. And that's just every episode we don't necessarily want to share with the general public, if you know what I'm saying. Again, that's rarecandy.substack.com. We also have merch. That link's a little long for me to say right now, but go to the description, go to our merch store, and find a shirt that's right for you. We have Rare Candy shirts, Dr. Bronner soap label shirts, Rishi mushroom shirts, all types of stuff there. Check it out. There's got to be something for you. And lastly, check us out on social media. On Instagram, we're Rare Candy Pod, but on Twitter, we're at Rare Candy Pod 1. All right, enough of that. Let's get you back into the episode. I guess the last thing I want to talk about before we get into our source material today, does anybody rock anymore? Because like I was listening to Leftovers, which like I grew up listening to stuff that rocks like rocks harder
Rocks
in terms
ass,
of like. But now to me, I was like had to like turn it down like reflexively because I'm used to low end. I'm used to only just low end like frequencies now.
Yeah.
And Psi talks about this a lot. It's like we're still in like the 80s again, like the 80s revival. When does that stop? And I was like, when you hear a guitar, it's like the most reactionary force nowadays. Like a non, like Bruno Marsy guitar, but like a really distorted, heavy guitar, and you're just like, it's like, does anybody rock anymore? And I feel like that needs to come back because you hear like MGK toying around with it,
right. But you want that thick, girthy like wall of, you know, who has the best heavy wall of fucking guitars? The Bloodhound Gang.
Like, really?
Yeah, like I love the Bloodhound Gang so much, and like recently kind of became friends with Jimmy Pop. And like, dude, when I listen back to Bloodhound Gang, when I think of like a big heavy wall of just like sludge guitars fucking hitting in a chorus, that is like that's probably like for me like the best example of just like it feels like it moves your head. Yeah,
because man, I mean, I have nothing but love for like, synthwave and all that stuff. But I just am like, man, guitar shouldn't shock me in 2024, but it did a little bit. And I felt a little embarrassed because it's just like, it's weird where we've moved to. And I can't imagine. I just that whole guitar attitude of society is gone too. Like just that whole like guy, kicking the wall down and like the class, in the corny like 80s video, like that emotion isn't here anymore. And I have to wonder if me being shocked by a guitar aids into that a little bit.
I was having fun. I was doing like a rehearsal with some new guys to book a show, and it was just cool to like play Leftovers live with a couple guitar players I barely fucking knew. And they just like thought the song was cool, and like I got together with them, and I think they're gonna end up being like my live band for anything that I play this year. And it was just a really cool experience to just to hear those guitars working together and just being like, this is a very nice sound.
It is, and is that on the horizon? Touring, doing live shows again? Because I know live shows can be funny, can be funky. Like I'm from the Bay Area, and they shut down a lot of venues, not even before COVID in the 2010s, a lot of just like kind of mid-level clubs that weren't just arenas or something. Those got shut down. I'm sure it's the same in other places too. Either it was violence, drugs, or something like that, and they converted it into like, like Persian hookah bar real fast. Yeah. And I was wondering, I'm like, touring, that would freak me out now. I love like part of what we do is like we don't have to tour. I mean, I'd be down to take this and visit people on the road and do things, but it's like the idea of like I got to find a venue. That is just so scary to me. Yeah, I mean, you have to be doing really good, and like more so than ever, you have to be doing like pretty crazy numbers to be able to like go across America and like pull in like at least 100 bodies a night to sustain what it takes to pay 4 to 5 guys to even, it's fucking ridiculous. And like, even the last tour that I did with my band, like, though we didn't like, go into the red or anything, like it didn't profit to the point where we could even have a conversation about like, you guys want to quit your jobs and just do this again? And it was like, no, that's not possible. And,
I just want to play live. So it's like I'll probably look at LA, and there's endless fucking clubs in Southern California, but maybe pop out to New York for a show, maybe a little club in Chicago, but like basically I'm only looking at major cities for now, because like I just don't have the draw on like my solo shit. I only have a couple albums, and I just haven't had a song pop off. And then it's like, and then I started asking myself, like, wait, am I supposed to just like work on songs like a psycho until one pops off so I can get a club full? Or do I just go have a couple small shows and have fun?
It's the eternal question, because it's like you could make a case for either side, right? You could make a case, it's like, no, I need to have my library available. And it's not, dude, nobody's buying CDs. So it's not like you could even have the CD table. You know, where it's like if you sat down and made the catalog of, you know, these are my Mario Cuomo. I got kind of an EP. I've got an LP, and then some shirts and stuff. You really only have the shirts and things like that. And that's kind of the issue. So it makes more sense to just have one real catchy song and then take whatever else with you. That might be the move, because I feel like, you know, you save on the studio time at least, you know,
then
like
you like kind of give yourself like a time. I'm like, wait, if I don't have like a song pop off that pays the bills in the next 2 years, 5 years, you know, I'm like, oh, well, now I'm getting into different chapters of my life where I'm supposed to be maybe not worrying about playing 100 people in a club. Maybe I should be getting someone pregnant or something, like, you know, like something real. Some real shit. So I'm like, fuck. Like, I guess I got a little timer on me.
Yeah, learn to code moment. No, I hear you. Anybody who creates anything has to have that conversation with themselves, unless you're an insane person like me, where you just think it'll never end and you can just tread water forever. But you know, with music, I think I feel for a lot of musicians, and I when I complain about the state of modern music, I look, it's like, well, streaming numbers are completely fake, in my opinion. Like, you'll you know, and then nobody's buying the physical copy, and because nobody's buying the physical copy, they're not sitting with the same artist for a long time, because that was so much of the CD era. Even buying it on iTunes, you would be like, well, I spent a summer with this album, you know, and it became part of my genetic code and stuff, and people are just in and out clicking around on streaming.
Or they don't even know who it is because they heard it and they're like, oh, I've heard that a million times. Then they're like, they never looked in the corner and like put their fucking cursor over the thing and saw like the name of the person that made it. And it's like, oh, well, if they're not even fucking knowing it, they're hearing it, but they don't even know who made it. It's like, fuck, what are we doing?
Yeah, Shazam doesn't load in time, and then there's a new song on. Yeah, it's bleak, but I will say the music video route, I think, really works. I thought music videos were dead until a couple of years ago, but they're not. They are not. No. People still love music videos.
Pretty important.
I would say even more important, like, especially when you
more important than the music. Actually, I'm not even fucking around.
You look at anybody like gay guys that like divas. If the video isn't good, they don't even like the song.
No, or like the video, somebody will have like the sickest video idea and they'll finance it, and it's like, this song doesn't even have fucking words yet. What are you doing? You know,
dude, maybe that you might just have to have like 3 or 4 videos. Like, really, like, because you figure people are gonna want to check out, you know, a few videos at a time or something, and just be like, wow, like, because when they see something's like real and like actually like some time was put into it and some you know, some cinematic quality to it, I think people go like, oh, this is a real artist.
Yeah, you know, songs could live in a pile on SoundCloud for 10 years and nobody,
dude.
You know, but yeah, that visual, that expensive visual is something I'll probably sink a little bit more money into before I fucking throw in the towel.
You might have to. Might have to. So
that's
everybody,
the money well spent, cinema.
They do live forever. I mean, they do live forever. It's. I mean, you know, even a tour might not live forever. You know, if you have a bad tour can really fuck you, and like you want to forget it. You don't want it to live forever. And it's. So I will say the music video, I was shocked because I don't really listen to music on YouTube, but then I will like go on YouTube when I want to listen to it on like my TV or something, and I'll be like, oh, there was like a video with like 13 million views on here, or like 15 million views, and people just like flocking to it, man. Like, and I don't know. I guess I need a path for like a true meritocracy of like music, particularly in rock, man, because it's just like we can't lose rock. I don't buy this. I don't buy that it's like dead, you know. it probably is kind of dead. I don't buy that it like can't exist ever again.
Yeah,
you know?
I think the only way that I see that it exists right now is like hardcore, like like the videos that pop up on your reels where it's like 30 guys like wrestling on stage, and the
Dude.
singer can like barely hold the microphone, and they're all doing backflips in the crowd and like elbowing each other in the face.
Dude,
Whatever
I saw
that is, that shit is booming right now. I don't really. It's like offshoots of Deftones or something, but whatever that's going on, that's like the big rock sound right now. I think a lot of like young bands are like still getting signed that are part. I guess it's called hardcore. I don't know how else to.
Yeah. No, I had a friend who was into like metal / hardcore. The people police those genres. Please don't. I don't know what he made. It was loud and aggressive, double bass pedal. He was just doing that, and he was very good, very talented at it. And you'd like see the videos from their shows, and they would just be fighting people. Dude, like it would just be people like no joke fighting people, but they look like Trader Joe's employees and stuff. Like they didn't look like like tough bikers or anything. And like the guy that I knew, he was a real sweet, sensitive guy, and he would just sit there with his cat and play World of Warcraft and stuff. But you'd see him out there, and it was just that like just crazy, like punching people.
Dude,
like
so many people are down. So many people are down to come out and fucking swing bows. It's crazy.
Maybe because it's illegal, so you literally can't get in a fight anymore. I know somebody that got in like a bar or like a regular bar fight, like just a 70s like Clint Eastwood Western bar fight, and he like went to jail. I was like, oh shit. So maybe maybe they don't want to sign up for jiu-jitsu. Maybe they just want to go fight. Maybe they just want to go fight.
Just swing around.
Yeah, because that stuff, dude. That I spent some time in like underground rap, which. You can't do that. You can't fight people at underground rap shows because somebody will die or tattle on you, and just be like, "Oh, that guy," and then they're a snitch, and then it's a cycle. And I'm like, that is an insane thing that people just fight at shows. I'm too old for that, anyways.
Yeah, it should be the last place where something like that should happen.
I can't be fighting. Yeah, I can't be fighting. Well. Let's talk about our source material or sorcerer material today. When we were putting ideas for an episode together, I just realized I had never talked about this film, and it's a film that I put on as kind of it's weird to say, but a comfort film to me. It's not a very comforting film at all. It's actually quite bleak and desolate, but for some reason, maybe it's just Friedkin's artistry. It's really satisfying to watch to me, and it's just and maybe it's my love of sports and competition, and it's kind of like this competition running on fumes element. But we're talking about William Friedkin's Sorcerer, one of his biggest bombs at the box office. But if you ask any film person now, it's like his best movie or something. It just has this revival now thanks to like the Tarantino types and the cinema revivalists and something. So Psi, you watched this movie for the first time. I've seen it quite a few times. I'd love to know your thoughts on this.
Yeah, it's better than Star Wars. Same weekend box office, right? No, I don't know.
Better than Star Wars? You don't? No, I don't know.
Yeah.
You don't believe that? I know you don't believe that.
Star Wars. I liked it. I like that. This is just like such a, especially as a '90s kids. It's like, what if we made a movie about transporting nitroglycerin? Okay, it's literally just like a for the bros. Like a kid would come up with it, just a crazy, insane idea.
Did it match your car videos that you watch, your famous car videos that you watch on YouTube?
It harkened back to that for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Down the steps of the Lincoln Memorial.
For Mario, if you're unaware, I watch videos of the car driver simulators where they just do crazy crashes and stuff. Okay. It's just pure autism, basically. Is what we joke around.
We're working on it. We're on the way. Yeah.
Exactly. But I liked it. The bridge scene is insane. Of course,
one of the best.
It's good. Definitely want to, because a lot of times I'll watch a late '70s movie and it'll be like, that one's all right, but I don't need to watch it again. But this one's definitely an instant classic. Yeah, I never really heard of it. Yeah,
no, I to be honest, I hadn't heard of it until about 3 or 4 years ago during COVID. Mm-hmm. I was kind of getting a little more into like listening to what like the cinephiles say, which don't do that, guys. They lead you astray a lot. But they were like, I liked Friedkin. I liked I liked French Connection, obviously The Exorcist, Cruising. I mean, his classics. I mean, just To Live and Die in L.A. And I just remember thinking, damn, this is like. Watching it with my wife and just being so tense and just realize, like, seeing the idea that these guys have nothing to live for. Like, it doesn't even really make sense to complete the mission. Like, you stink. Like, but that's part of being a guy, is when you're just like, what am I gonna do? Bow out, dude? Like, I gotta transport the dynamite. But Mario, what did you think? I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, this is like you said, even on a first time viewing, is like one of those times where you're just like glued, and on like that the saying on the edge of your seat. Like, I feel like this is the movie where they fucking coined that. Like,
yeah.
And like, I've watched it with not the most film savvy people before, and anybody that sits down and watches it is like, you would think that they're like fucking locked in, like this movie like just came out in theaters and it's like old as hell, and they can't fucking look away, and they're like, oh, I'm so uncomfortable. Oh my god, it's this thrill ride that's like inching through the fucking jungle, and part of you is like thinking about like, part of you is like in it, but part of you is also just like, wow, if that car falls in the water, how the fuck do filmmakers get a car out of the water? Like, like there's all these thoughts going on while you're just locked in. And dude, it was just a total thrill ride. And like, when there's not a shitload of movies where like I'm that locked in, but I mean, this is probably in the top 3 like most locked in I've ever felt like viewing something ever. And just really, really intense. And like, I don't know if there's like a more powerful thing that like a movie could do than like make you not be able to like look away.
Yeah. And it's I think a lot of I've been thinking about why it's so good, and also why it failed, and it's also for the kind of the same reasons. I think at one, everybody knows it came out around the same time as Star Wars. You release a film the same time as Star Wars. You drive around to the box office and you see people staying in line for Star Wars second, third, fourth time. It was just a phenomena, sure, but it didn't even get that much of a revival until a long time. But Friedkin was coming off of hit after hit after hit. You have The French Connection, The Exorcist. I forget what he made in between there, but he had some more. He had some more, and he was working on, this was kind of a side project he wanted to do to compete with Francis Ford Coppola, who was on his own journey to make Apocalypse Now. It was basically, this is like iron sharpens iron. We don't have this anymore. It's all
that's so exciting.
Yeah, like, can you imagine? It's like, damn, I heard somebody listening to this is like, I heard Leftovers. Like, I'm gonna make my damn song.
I hope so, dude.
Yeah, exactly. So. It's not even competition. It's just like, no, I can do that. I
light somebody else up.
Yeah, like it's inspiration. It's like the true inspiration. And then to have it was only supposed to be a budget at about $2.5 million around that time. And for a guy who was making hit after hit after hit, he really didn't. That's not like a too terribly high for that time, but it is enough for a studio to be like, you want to do what?
Yeah,
Dynamite truck movie, and then he so then it ends up costing 32 million, and you can see right away you got to shoot in Israel, where I think it was Israel. You have to shoot in the Boston Catholic Church, mob-run Catholic Church. Love those scenes. You got to do all that. Then you got to go to the jungle, and then you don't spend a lot of money on your casting. You have Roy Scheider, who's a legend, Jaws. Marathon Man. He's on a run during that time, and he's phenomenal.
That's right, Jaws. I was like, I know that guy.
Oh yeah,
I was like, that's the Jaws guy.
He's the man. No, he is the man. Probably the most underrated actor of the '70s, without a question. Like, he's just so good. But other than that, you just have a bunch of like dudes. Like, it's just guys that like, which helps. It helps a lot that you don't. It's kind of like 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's like, if that's like Jack Nicholson, I'm like focused in on Jack Nicholson and not the action. But again, to an audience, you're kind of like, well, who's the star? What is this? Where are the women? Right? Like, there's a lot of things that don't make this movie a instant hit. And a lot of times I feel like that's the trade-off, is like, you're making the instant hit or the thing somebody's going to discover 20 years from now. And you could span that across any medium, but that's a tough sell and a tough one to bounce back from. Honestly, when you fail that much, you finally got your big budget. The studio's like, oh, you're going to go 30 million over. Yeah, that's fine. Make sure it's a hit. And then it bombs. They didn't even get like 10% of it back, I don't think.
Yeah. What was the Tarantino theory? The Tarantino theory was like, he should have stuck with the original name, Dynamite or something. And he also said that he didn't believe. What did Tarantino also say? He didn't believe that Roy Scheider was like should have been the pick. He thought
Tarantino is a volume shooter that misses
hot
a lot.
takes.
He'll say the coolest thing you've ever heard, and then followed by the Joker 2 is good, and you're like, Yeah, or like, I covered The Big Sleep. He said the 70s BBC Big Sleep is with Robert Mitchum's good. It's horrible. I'm like, dude, he ran out of stuff to like,
Right.
but because I have his book Cinema Speculation. We've done an episode on it, and it's fantastic. That's how I found out about Rolling Thunder, all these like badass 70s movies. But after a while, you start recommending like Redbox movies, and you're like, all right, man, like just like you could just be normal after a while. But Roy Scheider, I push back on it. Roy Scheider, when he starts going insane at the end, when his boy, the Vato Loco, gets dies in a heroic shootout, but he's like talking about how they're all gonna get laid. He's like, yeah, you got to get laid for me, man. Like, that's such a good scene. Like, it's so good. I couldn't picture anybody else doing that. But yeah, the name is true. If you tell somebody I'm watching Sorcerer tonight, they're like, wizards. And you're like,
right.
No. And obviously it's the truck. They write it on the truck. But some people say this is a remake of, which is a film I haven't seen, the French film Wages of Fear, which actually is a sick title. That's a sick title because that's what they're doing. Right. And it sounds more intense. It doesn't sound magical. And like, that's probably why. But even then, I don't know that this would have made that much money. I think this is a movie we come back to. It's just one of those movies.
I wish I could remember how deep into the movie I like realized like, okay, there's no magic coming.
Yeah. You cross the bridge and then there's like a troll. And he's
I'm
nope.
like,
sorry.
Is there gonna be like any spells casted? And it's just like after like 25 minutes, you're like, wait, maybe not.
Guys, I think it's just regular old dynamite back there. But so if anyone doesn't know the concept of the film, and like again, it's Psi's exactly right. This is like a 10-year-old doing like in the back seat, like
Michael Bay,
it's exactly what it is. Michael Bay loves this movie, by the way. There's just no there's some, if you could bet on that on FanDuel, I would. He the concept of the movie is these four just fugitives. I mean, these guys are running away from what they got coming to them, and some of it's bad. One guy's a murderer. One guy, I like the financial fraud guy. I was like, that's not that bad. I was like, whatever, dude. You just you're dipping out on your wife at the restaurant. And you're like, hey, tell her I'm gonna be right back. His boy just blasts himself in the Porsche because he can't do any time. And then you have, like I said, the Israeli bomb guy, and then you have who's the other one? You have the weird assassin guy who shows up and tips and bribes his way through customs of that island. And you have all these people that come in and they're working in this third world country. And right away, it's like, oh, we pull up the pipes with like tie wire, and like then it just lands on a guy and like cuts him open, and then you die, and it's a horrible village. And but there's a huge fire at the oil rig, it just sprays everywhere, and they've already struck oil, and there's fire everywhere, and they're like, how do we get rid of it? They're like, blow up the fire, and which. We're back in 10-year-old boy land, but that's awesome. Like, it's awesome. And they're like, blow up the fire. There's that great scene of the guy testing the dynamite where he just like real fast, just like that on the ground. And it just like it's almost bullet sounds cracking on the ground. Yeah. And so then they want two best drivers. They want 2 trucks to go up full of this dynamite. They're going to use it to put out the fire. But you got to drive through a road that probably has never been driven through before. And you have those 4 guys who will get, I think they said 8,000 pesos at first, and then they conned them into doubling, that is like not that much money, I don't think. Is it? Do you know the conversion rate of pesos? I feel like I feel like
don't.
A lot. I watched Eastbound and Down, and he's doing a lot of conversions, and I'm like, I feel like
everything is like 10,000 pesos. I feel like it's so high. Like a banana is like 10,000 fucking.
Yeah,
pesos.
It's more than $1.
Good, but you notice that Roy Scheider at the end, he gets the 40 grand. He gets everybody's shit, which that was pretty sick. But yeah, so they got to take it up the mountain. But yeah, there's just so many tense scenes. And one thing I wanted to talk about, not done talking about this film, the score. I mean, the score is what makes it intense. Obviously the action scenes too, but you have the score by Tangerine Dream. Tangerine Dream is, you look up any movie score from the 80s, it's either Vangelis or Tangerine Dream, really, or Hans Zimmer. Those are like the 3 people that were making these massive, really tough gritty action movie scores. But it's not exactly the sound that if you asked me to score the film, I would do. I probably wouldn't do this. Like, I would do something lamer for sure. Like, it wouldn't work. Whatever I would pick would not work. But this, I think this is like my fourth or fifth viewing of this movie. I noticed that the score is not really playing that much, and I think they're sparing with it, and which is what I like. It's not just constant music all the time. That there's just these kind of like it's a master of flow of kind of like ebbs and flows of the movie, and I love the part where they're putting together the truck and they're like souping it up. It's a total just boys moment. Like we'll come together and we'll put the floodlights on top and all of these things. And that sound that's playing during there, my gosh, injected into my veins. I don't know. Mari, do you have any experience with Tangerine Dream Psi? And I used to love them back in the day, and I still do.
Yeah. So I actually didn't have a ton of knowledge about them or heard much stuff until I had made a song on like an EP, and somebody like I think Low-Res let me know that he was like, this song is very Tangerine Dream, super cool. And I was like, oh, let me just dive into, what made him think, that it was similar. And then I was like, started looking at the movies that they did, and I was like, oh, like I've seen so many fucking movies that they've like did the sounds for, and I was like, what a dream gig for like. Because, like, I mean, like, a band is, like, you already have, like, whatever, the coolest job where you're like, oh, you just get to make music and fucking, play it and everything's good. But then, like, to have, like, your input on a film to make it better is, like, one, you have to be, like, the sickest band to be able to do something like that.
Uh-huh.
And I don't really see people do that now. Like, I think, like, recently there's like all the like Trent Reznor doing like a bunch of the like the tennis movie and shit like that. Like there's like cool moments like that recently, but for the most part it was like, I feel like back in the day there was more like, can you do the music for my movie? It wasn't so much like, hey, can you come up with a cool, like the early 2000s I feel like there was more like, oh, I made a song for this movie, and it's going to be like crudely like injected to it. And there's going to be like, it might even reference the movie. Like it was
click, boom. Yeah.
Like it was like way more shit like that, where before it was like, no, like make this movie better. It wasn't like, hey, can you, can you say a little bow wow? Like, can you like say your name on the soundtrack? It was like, they were just working with the filmmaker to like make it better, and like, they were doing a score. It wasn't like, hey, can we just use what makes you cool for a second? It was much more of like a collaborative, like really cool thing.
I loved that you brought that up. That was the coolest part about Challengers to me. It was a film I really liked, but watching Challengers, and first off, Trent Reznor actually was like, I'm going to make fun music again, and not like just like one synth chord, like with Gone Girl and stuff, like, which is fine, but that got aped into oblivion, to where that was the default sound in everything. And I, for good reason, he won an Oscar doing it for Social Network, but with like Challengers, I was like, wow, this like matches the film. He matched the energy of the film. This is a guy like watching it and just making it and doing that. And like, dude, Tangerine Dream, I'm just looking at their thing. I forgot that they did Thief, the classic Michael Mann film, which score is unreal for that one. It's probably better than Sorcerer, the score itself, if you were to put it on.
Damn. I don't know if I'm trying to think of like another band that had like as cool of movies that they were like involved with.
Risky Business. People forget about Risky Business. Everybody knows Bob Seger song, obviously, but the actual score to that is really good too. The one I was looking at on Apple Music, that is a movie that is not good in my opinion, and it's also not even that good of a Stephen King book, but Firestarter from the 80s, the Drew Barrymore when she's a kid with telekinesis. Sick ass score. Like I was just listening to it. But yeah, they have.
Damn, I have to watch. Should I at least watch that once?
If you can, like, I mean, I don't know. I guess. I remember I read the book when I was like really young and got stoked to watch the movie.
I
thought the book was all right.
I really like the one with the cat where people keep morphing into cats.
Oh, cat people.
Or the Stephen King adaptation.
Oh, which one's that? The people morphing into cats.
Dude, they keep turning into cats. I'll think of it, but. It's a good one, but it's like
Cat's Eye.
Yeah, that might. I don't know if that's it either.
Well, it's Drew Barrymore. It's Drew Barrymore.
But it's one of those like, it's not really good. Like it's like the Stephen King movies that are like still good, like the the vampire that flies around in the plane, like that one, like that.
I
like,
know that one. Yeah.
yeah, like it's like still sick and like you enjoy it, but it's not like it's not like The
Yeah.
Shining, but like
Yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, just in this movie, it's like you get the score right, and who knows if they scored like the entire thing, because there's a thing where I don't know this, but I'd assume you score a film, but like you still have the guy that's like I gotta use the right thing at the right time. I
Right.
can't just like, thanks for all these things that you think go this way, but there's also the sound design and the person who does all that. And like, they put it in at the right time. There's silence at the right time. Like that bridge scene, like there is some sound to it, but a lot of times there's just like elements that you hear that makes it more tense. Like, whereas it turns into kind of like a corny movie at that point if you're just constantly playing synth looped, like arpeggiated synths over it. I don't know. I think Tangerine Dream is awesome. I go through all. They have some albums that aren't scores either. They have for one of the ones, I think it's only available on YouTube or like through compilations on stream. Another reason I hate streaming right now is because it's just like shit just disappears. You're like, oh, I guess I don't have that album anymore. It's like
I guess
a crackhead.
I guess they stopped paying $10.99 a year, and now,
the crack. Yeah, the crack. Yeah, it's like a crack. It's like a digital crackhead breaking into your car and stealing the CD, and you're like, you don't have this anymore. But the Force Majeure is a really, really good album for anybody that's looking for a non-movie score. That's just like weird synth rock, like kind of trippy shit like that. But the use of it is great. But what do you guys think of the end of the film of Sorcerer? Because that is 70s nihilism at its core, but also it could be viewed as not, as kind of not nihilist. Friedkin, I think he was a religious man, if I'm not mistaken. I think this actually has like some religious ties, because it's like, no, these guys are all skating out on some like dirt that they did, like they're skating out on there. And they set it up with like the mob hit, the like Ginzo Wop like mob hit at the beginning that you forget about.
Right.
Literally 20 minutes later, you're like, I forgot about what happened in the first 20 minutes of this movie.
Yeah.
Like, completely forget about it. And then after Roy Scheider wins, quote unquote wins, survives, he's in a delirious state carrying a box of dynamite. Like, thank God he didn't drop it. And he goes and he dances with the tribal woman of the country. May I have this dance? He could have just got on the plane, but then his old mobster guys found him. His old friend that set him up with the place to get there snitched on him. And they show up, and you do hear, I didn't notice this, you do hear a gunshot. There's one gunshot at the end. Yeah. So I'm like, damn.
How do you feel about those endings in general? Because like, like when everything's all said and done and you really think somebody came out on top and everything's okay, and then the director, the writer, at the very last second, they just go, nah.
You got to earn it. First of all, it can't be a movie like he's earned whatever he wants to do by the time I'm happy. Like you've submitted to Friedkin. You're just like, I literally feel like I'm there. I feel like I'm, I feel like I'm guiding him like this on the bridge. I feel like I'm doing all of this. And then at the end, you kind of want him to get into the plane. You want him to get into the plane, even though, where can he go?
Yeah.
I mean, literally they found him there. So maybe he could go somewhere else, but it's going to be another third world country. I think he earned it on this one. I don't normally like it, and that's the kind of the downfall or that's kind of the bad part about 70s movies, because it was a nihilist decade. You're coming off the Summer of Love in the 60s, and then you have a massive recession, and then you have people standing outside lines at the gas station. You have serial killers going crazy in the 70s. Son of Sam doing all this.
People get lit up at the end of those movies.
Yeah, it's like Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie and Clyde, not a great ending. I mean, here's the thing: are they good people? No, not typically. These are like not necessarily good people. But I'll tell you right now, people aren't actually sick of those endings, because No Country for Old Men has that ending.
Right. It's kind of the romance of like that era of movies where you're like, oh, they will. Like, you can go back there and be like, that's when they did light people up, and like there wasn't a lot of happy endings, and like that's part of the fun of like revisiting them and like liking them, because like you don't get to see that all the time, where people get really upset when it happens nowadays.
Yeah, because you can watch it with people who want the happy ending. Like it's their one criteria for a movie is like, I don't care what happens as long as it's a good story with a happy ending. And I'll be like, well, let's not watch this one then, because but you know, at the end of the day, it's like I kind of like it because it's kind of like the triumph of man when it's like that's kind of I think what like men are is just kind of like there's no good ending, but quitting is way worse. You know, like quitting is way worse, and you know, like that dude easily like honestly, dude, halfway through, I'm probably just driving the truck off the hill, and just like I'm like fuck this, dude. This is like I think I've had enough of this life, you know, and I'm just driving it. Or like, you could say the people who got off the easiest, and it's a kind of a nihilist scene in a sense, are the Israeli guy and the French guy, and they get through that part. They blow up the tree stump. That's another 10-year-old movie moment. Is just let's just blow up the tree stump, dude, with like a cool like Macaulay Culkin Home Alone rig. Like let's
dynamite must be expensive as fuck.
Yeah, dude, those explosions were so sick. You know, that's the 32 mil, the one where it came over budget. They're like, well, what's it for? And he's like, explosions. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like because all these old movies, I don't have any context for how they're made. It's like a different era. You know, it's almost like
you have a detachment. You have a detachment. And it shows up on the screen to you, and that's what it is.
And it's just crazy because now you're like, oh yeah, they just used filters, or they did it. It's easy. Even Christopher Nolan stuff is really like, it's like you could see how they did it back then. Like, how the fuck did they make this back then? Even with that amount of money,
you went to Central America and was like, hey, I can blow this whole shit up, dude. No one will give a fuck.
You just had like cold days where you just reeked like shit at the end of the day, and you just like had just like jungle bugs biting you, and like,
oh god, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Apocalypse Now, the documentary that's Coppola's wife made about like the making of Apocalypse Now. They lost their whole like headquarters in where I forget whether the Philippines is where they were. The shit just typhooned out. They just got typhooned. Like it was done.
From the 5 to the 6, we be in the mix with that red candy paint job on the whip. I need food for the kids, running for the rent. Fuck a lockdown, baby, can't do that shit.
That's like so crazy. It's because I can't understand. We talked about this with low res, but I'm like, I can never. I'm a pretty hardworking dude. I think for certain things, but I'm like, I can't fathom ever thinking I want to make a movie, and like, it's just so much insane stuff that goes into it. And there's no guarantee, when it, you could lose money on it and shit. So I have massive respect for any filmmaker, honestly.
Yeah.
How do you interpret that message, right? Because it's like, okay, say you're a believer in God. Is God telling you to stop, or is God to be like, are you a bitch or what?
Exactly.
You're gonna be a bitch. This is your life's work. Are you gonna stop? But you can interpret it both ways. And that's kind of why I like Sorcerer too, because it's just like, what, are you gonna stop in the jungle and just you're gonna die a bitch, like instead of just like hitting the flat tire and your truck explodes, which is so fucked up. But like like dude, it's so rough when the guy's like, oh yeah, my wife gave me the watch, she's so nice, and he looks at it and then just and then off the thing. And the best part is that they all see it. And they're like, they see it from far away. They're like, fuck, dude, we just spent like 6 hours trying to blow up that tree stump together, and then and then you got a flat tire. But that's the thing, like, you got to find, like, I know so many people who, whether it's a podcast, whether it's music or anything, they let any little thing stop them. And it bothers me because they'll tell you day in and day out how they're meant to do something, and it's like their passion. I'm like, nah, dude, read any or watch any documentary about someone trying to make like a movie, like with like their own money. Coppola sold his house in the Bay Area to finance, Apocalypse Now. And like he was, and we're talking about Coppola wines. Yeah. Like he had the vineyards and everything. Like he was like selling these things to make Apocalypse Now, dude. We knew a guy who wouldn't even sell his mountain bike.
Yeah.
I mean, only Sai's gonna think that's like funny, but like he was just like, I'm canceled, dude. I don't know what to do. I don't know. And he was like on a channel like this. He had like 6 Trek mountain bikes in the background, like sick ass.
And like 3 classic cars. And people are like, dude, just sell you can make like 50 grand right now by selling a third of your shit. He's
Oh,
like, I
that's
can't,
not-
dude.
That's
And
not
it's
rock
like,
bottom.
no,
That ain't
no, it's
rock
not.
bottom.
That's the thing. It's like
No.
I've scrounged my garage before, been like, how can I make
Yeah.
$100?
Yeah,
dude?
on
Like,
the
you know,
thumbnail, on the thumbnail, he's like dumpster diving. Like he's like,
Yeah.
I just don't know what I'm gonna do,
Yeah,
you
dude.
know. And we're just laughing because I'm like, no,
Yeah.
you see, like this, you know, these guys are making like quote unquote nihilist '70s film where like nothing matters, fuck this, like. But then you're like, the thing that matters is making the damn movie. Like these guys didn't stop at anything.
Yeah, like sometimes you just gotta fucking go. You just gotta like not even that far. Like, yeah, we're talking about like they're going to the Philippines and fucking flying planes and fucking going with their jeeps across bridges. But like sometimes you don't need to go that far. Like maybe somebody, maybe somebody's like a state away and they agreed to help you on a project, and all you have to do is drive for 2 hours. You know,
Dude.
like sometimes it's like little shit like that where it's like, can you just fucking take a day out of your fucking life and be like, I'm gonna go work on this, and it's gonna take all day, and I'm gonna go somewhere, and that's it.
People with like no fight or flight, like it's like, does the fight or flight ever go off? Like, because for us, like with the with our show, it's kind of like that. I'm kind of like, no, it must go on. Like I don't care what happened. Like I remember I tried stand-up comedy once and bombed so hard, like so hard. It was it was so embarrassing. It was at one of those open mics where like nobody's there to see stand-up comedy, but everyone locked in on me because I was bombing. They're like, "Oh, let's pay attention to this. This guy sucks." Like women would look up and be like, "Oh no,
oh my god, what city was this in?"
The one I'm currently in. I'm in the South Bay area, but
damn,
it was bad. It was bad. No, but like everyone does though. Like most people don't crush their first time, and maybe some people do. But I was like, I'm done. Like I realized I'm like, no, I don't have a passion for this because I can't handle bombing my first time. But it was a really funny story because I think I've told this before, but there was this, like, I'm talking like I just went up there. I was cocky. I was like, I don't need material. I'm funny. My friends think I'm funny. I'll just go up there and crowd work, commentary, doing all this shit.
Totally.
Completely missed. I'm like, do you ever like get your dick sucked and like feel like you're not part of this earth anymore? I'm like saying shit like that.
Yeah.
I'm like 20 years old, just idiot. And 21, probably 21, freshly could just get in the bar. So I bomb. I literally get off and I walk away. And like I don't live that far away from this place, so I'm like fucking like not removing myself at all from the place. Yeah. And I'm walking there, and then all of a sudden this black guy comes out, big ass black guy, and he was like, "Hey man, hey wait." Like that. It was like a movie. And he turned around, he goes, "You got fucking potential, man." I'm like, you suck. Because like, that's even worse on you because you thought I was tight. Like, and like, he was just like, "You got fucking potential, man." Like that. And he gave me a card for his comedy troupe on Facebook. And he's like, I think it was like, "We need a white guy." It was him and like 4 black guys. He's like, you would be the perfect cringe white guy.
Hell yeah.
Like you'd be so good. You'd be like, the principal in Eastbound and Down. Like you'd be perfect. Yeah. And I'm like, so I was just like, but again, then you find what you're good at and you never stop. Like, and it's easy to continue, even if like the situation sucks.
Yeah.
Like those guys all at least knew how to drive a damn truck, dude. Like I couldn't drive that thing. It'd be fun. It'd be kind of fun. If it wasn't, with
you kind of figure out what's worth like taking that mouthful of shit and being like, okay, I could swallow this one and maybe revisit this, and like some stuff, you try it out and like you get humbled and like, I tried to make a short film with my fucking cousins in the woods, and I was like, filmmaking is hard as fuck. Like, and I had to just like have that experience and be like, oh my god, the things that go into this, fucking ridiculous. But like, I couldn't just like sit around and like watch movies all day. I was like, I gotta see what this is about. And then you start, you bring a little script out into the woods and you're like, oh my god, dude, this is fucking impossible.
Yeah, you're like, am I over prepping for this? And you get out there and you're like, I didn't prep enough at all. This is so bad. And just the slow burn of making a film, like how long it takes. The beauty of podcasting is like you put it out when it's done. It's like if you like it's and then you're on to next week, and that's like so fun. You don't have to sit on it for that long. But even like you said, like making an album, even a song. I mean, just like you hear the stories of like Black Sabbath making like 2 albums in 48 hours or something because they were like just that's what you did. But most of the time it takes a lot longer than that. Mixing, mastering, more hands touching it and all that stuff. And you just gotta like you gotta sit on it for so long. You gotta like, do I even still like this anymore? Do I even it's like that time to think, that idle time is just always like your biggest enemy sometimes. I commend anybody that makes music and like in a long form or film, because I don't have the patience for it or the confidence. I don't think.
Yeah, totally. It's like just like that. Even that last track that I did to the point, like when you get the whatever melody idea and you fucking sing it into your phone's vocal or voice memos, like from that moment to like this WAV file is getting uploaded to the streams is like the last that was like 3.5 months.
Damn.
Yeah.
So I was happy with it, exactly how I wanted it. Video's ready to go. And I was like, that was like, I had a different job. I was like driving to work in the morning and I like fucking sang it into my phone, didn't think anything of it. Then later you're like, yeah, maybe I can make a demo out of this. Then you have the demo and you're like, this deserves a revamp, a better version.
Right.
And then you're driving across the country to Nashville and you have fucking 5 hours to shoot a video. And I'm like, hell yeah. But that's like the best, like that's the best case scenario.
Yeah.
The Tangerine Dream starts playing. You got to make the video, dude.
Yeah.
You gotta get going. There's the dynamite is the metaphorical dynamite is the time that you don't have, you know, like it's
a lot of work, but at the end of the day, like that's the best thing that can happen with your idea.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, fucking people got to suck it up if they want to fucking do that shit. It's fucking
That's what I mean. You know, and you hear people just be like, well, this happened, so I can't do this anymore. And you're just like, that happens to me every day. Like that happens to me every single day. You know, like, oh, well, I just don't have the money. You know, they got 50,000 in the bank that they're just like can't touch or something. And I'm like, you guys don't know like any of this stuff. Like, and that's why I love like filmmakers, especially those 70s, like new Hollywood filmmakers. They just like, you know, the studio system's not quite there anymore, you know, and that was its own tough battle. Like the studio filmmakers, I love what they do too. But the new Hollywood guys, like for the most part, like they were making films, especially for the first part of it, that like the studios didn't really want to see. They're like, dude, what's like, we're going to do Bonnie and Clyde where they all just get shot at the end and you're supposed to like them. You know, you go, we want to, a lot of these films, but you know, like, you just know you've got it. Like, you know, you've got something, you know, that there's this uncharted territory with the familiarity of things from the past. These guys were all students of the game and they would incorporate certain parts of that. And, you know, nowadays I just don't, when I see a film get promoted, I'm sick of it by the time it comes out, which I think I get really mad about because, you know, part of it's being online, but everybody looks at their screens. You'll see a trailer for like, I didn't see Wicked, but like if I was interested in it, I wouldn't have loved to see a month of promotions of it, you know, like before it comes out. If that, you know, you see it with every single thing, but also you kind of have to because people forget about shit.
Yeah.
People forget about shit and you like have to, you had a trailer for your music video. I remember you had a trailer. Like,
oh yeah, I'll fucking
like,
hit him with 10 seconds just to be like,
yeah,
hey, don't fucking forget, I'm making stuff.
Thanksgiving themed. Thanksgiving timed and themed.
Dude, I was like, what could be what could, like, I'm like, nobody else is dropping the Thanksgiving track this year. They gotta check it out when they're fucking pulling up to Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just things like that where you're like, I'm also like, weirdly working on my own like rollout, even though it's not like a fucking, you know, it's not like some press. It's not like the weird Wicked interviews, but it's like I'm also trying to figure out like how can I time this in a way that like makes more sense than usual.
Yeah, it'd be funny if you did Wicked interview like style interviews for
you gotta just really lock in on the question, like it's like they just unlock the Da Vinci Code like in front of you with the question and just be like, oh my gosh,
and just get as upset as that lady got upset about people making memes about her.
Oh my gosh, dude. But that's I feel because like this is media, like you are like this is press, like kind of in a way, right? Like
totally,
it's like, do you sound cool on this guy's show? The answer is yes, you do. So like, but you know, before anybody audience says anything, you do. So, but that's like how I find out about stuff.
Right.
Where I found out about Sturgill Simpson one time from like a podcast. And I like Sturgill Simpson. I just was like, he didn't talk about his music. He was just like bullshitting and talking about like trucks and shit. And I was like, oh, this guy's cool. And I listened to his music. I was like,
who is this guy? Seems
it
like
wasn't
cool
just
guy.
here's my craft, my process. I was like, well, I'll find out about that later. I found out who you are. And it's kind of this reverse thing. It's like usually, you know, for many years it was you come out with like a song or an album, a book or something, and then people want to find out who you are after that. I feel like now it's like they find out who you are and then listen to your music because it's like social media brain. So it's like I feel like people have to, and I can understand why people are hesitant to it, especially if you grew up in like a different era. But I think you do have to just like put yourself out there. Like not everyone's Kanye. You can't just like own Twitter for a day. You know, when you start talking, like it's just that's part of the old guard. Like you just can't. I saw like Phoebe Bridgers, like she has no Avi on Instagram. Like it's just like the no Avi thing, and I'm just like, yeah, only she can do that because she has her own fan base. But anyone who's trying to come out there, it's like, sorry, man, you got to just put the phone on you sometimes and say something pretty funny.
Yeah, it's not like you can just put something up on Spotify, tell nobody, and expect like, you know, cross your fingers and be like, this could happen. Like it's just won't because you didn't tell anybody. Like that, like, you know, what are you gonna make? Like it's like, you know, what are you gonna stop word of mouth yourself? You know,
you can't. I mean, you can't. It's sad.
Like the chain reaction has to start with something.
Yeah, I mean, you know, gone are the days of MySpace. You know, like MySpace, where I would find out about certain people's songs from like their MySpace song. It was so cool. It was so personal.
My friends could know who's more important by being listed 1 through 10, 1 through 20.
Can you imagine the shit that would start now? Because it would always be funny on MySpace is when somebody would get a girlfriend and you're like, dude, you just met her. How is she number one? It's like she made you put her number one. And then like that disrupts the whole thing. It's like, dude, put her at top 5's fine. Yeah. You know, like for your new girlfriend that's not going to be here in a month. And then
bottom rung, work your way up, you know?
Yeah, I say 8. I say 8. Yeah. You know, like to me. And then like they're behind like Breaking Benjamin, like the band or something.
Yeah.
Like, it's like,
I think I had Clerks 2 in my top friends for sure.
Sick, yeah, like that is your friend, dude. Yeah, I mean, that's more your friend than people you know on Twitter now or some shit. Like, geez.
Yeah, totally.
Like, yeah. Oh my god, that's the other thing. I was listening to like Leftovers, and it took me back. I don't know if you meant to take me back, but it took me back.
That's awesome. I didn't, but that's fucking
sweet.
Because
you could tell you were making a very modern thing, but I was just like, and I think I'm taking it back because now we're in this like phase where hooks are still catchy, but I can feel like when I'll hear a beat, I can tell exactly what the artist is going to do, or a track. I'll be like, oh, you're going to come in like this. Ah, yes, you did the thing. And I'm sitting there with my checklist and then it's over. But like it came in, I mean, you know, the piano intro, bam, and then the hook. And then it's just like, whoa, like it took me back to, you know, it's probably like what my dad hears when he hears like, you know, Zeppelin or something. Like it takes him back. Like, you know, it's, you know, to a time where you're starting to see now people are nostalgic for like pre-social media internet.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I thought of. It was like MySpace is social media, but it was so personal. And I started thinking MySpace because I used to love MySpace.
That's awesome.
It was so inviting. It wasn't just a number. It was like a red, orange comment box, red message, bulletins. It was like so communal and stuff. And I was like, and that was going to show.
Pick comment for pick comment. Let's fucking go. Like
pick comment for pick comment. Whore for whore, dude.
Yeah, bring it on. Bring it on.
Yeah, I know. Dude, it's so old right now. Dude.
I still fucking rip my friends who did like they would like hold up like a sign of like another girl's like screen name. It was always like my like screamo friends. And they would like, you know, they'd have like their fucking turquoise blue flannel, like unbuttoned, like 4 buttons, and they'd be holding like a card with like kitty face, blah blah, whatever the fuck her name, you know, like, and it would be like a gesture of like mating almost. They're like courting.
Yeah, and now they'll take that same picture. A girl will make an account and go, "This is the type of guy I liked while I was on hormonal birth control. Now I'm into something totally different." You know, like they'll say stuff like that. But I remember those guys. I knew people in that scene, and I was like, "Damn, man! Like it's like you kind of have to like the alpha move is to like be kind of a girl." You know, I was like, "Damn," because it works.
They were also the guys that I knew like that were also like the most off the rails at like a young age. Like, you know, like we would be, you know, having parties as like sophomores or something. And they'd be like, "Can I do a little coke in the bathroom?" And I'm like, what the hell? You have that? Like we just got a case of Budweiser. Why do you have that in my parents' house? Like it was like they were just like, you know, like just like, I don't know.
Dude, we thought we were groundbreaking. We thought we were groundbreaking for mixing E&J and Fanta. You know, like,
I'm like, oh, there, pump the brakes, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, people like when I was in high school, the computer cleaner shit was big. The dust off stuff. I talk
Oh
about,
yeah.
but like you'd see it like at the party, like people in like the red cups. You'd hear like Kurt Cobain's like "Drinking My Cup" playing and stuff, and then like people would have like all these like concoctions of like liquor that didn't mix and like mixers that didn't mix. It was just all like whatever you could shoulder tap for with no like coherent thought. And then you'd see one guy just huffing like dust off in the corner. And you're like, nice.
Yeah, I saw a guy do that in the shed once, and he used the air. He used the air duster as oxygen in between to do lines of Xanax. So like he wasn't breathing air. Like
is he still with us?
No, he's dead. But he actually died getting hit by a semi truck on a motorcycle. But I'm sure he was not sober when that happened.
That's like Sorcerer.
But it was crazy. I remember seeing him like do it and like rip the lines and come up for breath and take a hit. And
Damn.
no real air was going into his brain and shit. And then he just fucking like went, at some point he just went like fucking limp and like was like, ugh. But like, dude, just seeing gnarly shit like that growing up where I'm like, I'm not fucking taking it there anytime soon, dude.
No, it got so bad that at Fry's Electronics, you used to have an adult with you to buy computer cleaner. So it's like if you actually had a computer problem and you were just some like nerdy Indian kid, they were just like, nah, dude, we don't trust you. And he's like, come on, it's not me,
Yeah.
and you could be shoulder tapping dust off for somebody.
Yeah, but they are mostly dead. They are mainly dead.
I haven't gone back to my personal like Facebook. I'm kind of scared because I feel like there's like 4 deaths I don't know about. And I don't really want to know. I want to like have some memories and some good times and stuff. Because it's like you just see that guy and you're just like, damn, man. Like I knew a guy one time. And I was in like I just dropped out of college and I was just kind of like meandering around like under the Silver Lake, and I was just kind of like driving around. I met this dude at like 7-Eleven. He saw that I was buying like Swishers, obviously,
Grape.
Never. Never. Pro tip, dude, the banana Swishers, very rare. They tasted like nothing. So
I don't think I've ever seen a banana one. Wow.
There was one gas station. It was. I'm pretty sure they might have just been expired Swishers that he said were banana, but they didn't taste like anything, and that was the best part. So it was like, oh, that's cool. They don't taste like anything. And you tell people you bought a banana, they're like, I don't want to smoke fucking like banana, like runts. And so, but anyways, I was buying it, and this guy was like, hey, so what are you doing with that? And I was like, I literally was just buying Swishers.
Yeah, like nothing.
But I also was kind of like, hopefully somebody has weed the place I'm going. And I'll be like, at least I have these. And this guy's like, well, I have a shit ton of weed. And he had this sick ass like Acura, modded Acura.
Cool. Nice.
Hella cool, obviously. And so then he's like, yeah, I live over here. I was like, cool, man. I live over there, saying where I live and stuff. And so we go over to the spot. And I park, over there, and then all of a sudden I go into his house. We smoke a little bit. I'm like, this guy's just like not cool, man. Like, I don't know, something's off about this guy. And you could tell he came from some money, but was like living in like a trashed out apartment because he burned like every bridge already.
Yeah.
And he all of a sudden I walk out. I'm done. And I noticed he had a bunch of like random accessories in the house, like stuff I'm thinking he had some girls over or something, left like a purse or something. I go out and I see like 3 straight car windows broken. And I was like, this motherfucker steals shit. I was like, this, it was just like, again, listen to Leftovers, guys. That's the era I got taken back to when you listen to Leftovers.
Dude, the best part, that's peak teenage years when you're just buying the Swishers. And somebody's like, don't you want you want a cigarette or something? And you're like, no,
I'm actually a 62-year-old black guy, actually.
You're like, this is just fine for me. Just that little era where it's like before you put weed in it, maybe you've got the little cigarello ones, and you and your friends are just looking for a lighter, and that's it.
The best, man. I just like, and just using like the weird candle lighter, the like one with the click lighter, like the long one.
Someone's stepmom rips Marlboro Light 100s fucking constantly.
Yeah, dude. I know. We used to go over to people's houses. Like, I remember in like high school, I had this friend, and you could like smoke weed at his house, and it was like, it's kind of fucked up when you think about it now. And the reason we could is because his mom would get like wine hammered at like 2 p.m. and just pass out. And just passed out on the couch, and you're just like, oh, she has a terrible mom. That's why we're allowed to smoke here. Like his mom sucks. Like, rest in peace to her. She's not with us anymore. But I was just like, wow, that's, you get older, you realize it's not exactly the It's not actually the dream world. The Mulholland Drive fantasy kind of ends a little bit. You should make a Mulholland Drive of guys who buy Swishers at the gas station and get, sucked into cool events and then realize they're actually hanging around tweakers the whole time.
I'd love to see that era, like, represented in a good way. I just saw that one movie. I just saw that fucking one movie last night, The Dirties, where it ends up being a school shooting movie at the end, but the whole movie doesn't feel like it's going to be a school shooting movie.
Oh, I haven't seen this.
Dude, it's pretty fucking sick. I actually really liked it.
Oh, I've seen like stills of it before. No, I haven't seen this. Yeah.
Yeah, and when it feels like the friends are hanging out after high school and just playing video games and fucking around, it feels really genuine. It was kind of one of the few times that I was like, this kind of feels like two real bros being filmed. It didn't really feel like and I think it was only made for $10,000 or something, but and then at the end, I don't want to fucking fuck it up or anything, but I already said it does end up becoming a school shooting movie, but you're just fucking smiling at the end, you're not really
damn.
It's not like Elephant or something where you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah, right.
You're just
Gus Van Sant,
yeah, you're just like, oh no, this is still just a funny, sick movie. And but yeah, that era of chilling after high school and where are you gonna chill? It was a nice representation.
Dude, spending 3 hours trying to buy weed. I was just thinking the other day, I could just go to a store and just buy
it. Dry. Town's dry, man.
Town's dry. Wendy guy walks up finally 3 hours later with a Wendy's napkin and just hand it to you and just loose weed. You're like, cool. Yeah. Cool. Did anyone have a cup I could put this into? Yeah.
Yeah. He's eating a Whopper. He's like, I like this kid.
Yeah, I know. It's great. What a time.
Fuck my lucky day.
Well, speaking of these period pieces, because our generation now is getting the period piece treatment, which I don't know how much I feel about that, but it does feel like an inevitable part of life, I guess. And I've seen these ones of the Generation Z's idea of what we did in high school is so funny, and I think it's probably the same as our generation making an 80s movie. When you watch Stranger Things, everyone's dressed like Cyndi Lauper or Billy Idol, and you're like, no, dude, bros just wore sweaters at times too, and in ours, I saw this one, I don't know what the movie was, but it's some movie that takes place during the toxic 2004 or something era, where it's low-rise jeans and Aeropostale and all of these random brands. But I was just is the moral going to be that we were evil though? Because we would make movies about the 80s that were cool, at least. They were oh, everybody was partying and it was sick, and then a killer got loose or something. But ours are going to be they were mean. They're eating disorders and mean, and I'm like, well, they'll be nice if you're gonna make a period piece.
Yeah, jeez. I don't know. Yeah, because it's me and my friends were actually pretty mean now that I think about it. But we were wearing crew sweaters and fallen shoes and nice. We were and then with the people that we thought was evil was kids that were trying to get good enough grades so they could play football on the weekend. And I was pieces of shit, but but we both thought we were the pieces of shit, and it's just it's funny.
Oh yeah, it was just kind of because I was right in the middle. I was kind of a sports guy and then kind of a go get high guy, and it was kind of there was art where we went, it was kind of blended all together. It was kind of those people all hung out with each other, but then I'd watch
it's better that way.
Yeah, it was cool, but then I'd see hear about other people's schools and be the nerds sat over here, and ours was just everybody just sat wherever, and the chips fell, and it was it's kind of interesting. But yeah, I knew the fallen dickhead wear guys too. Those existed too. So
for sure,
that is a type of guy.
For sure.
But so you said you're going to work, maybe on a long form album, maybe not, maybe see where Leftovers takes you. You kind of, it's open ended. You've been on major tours before and stuff. But is it easier or harder now to stand out?
Honestly, just the freedom that I've experienced, not having to run anything by pretty much anybody has been going to Nashville to record that song and having my buddy jump on drums and his buddy jump on guitar, and just I showed him my idea and we just went with it, and it was if it doesn't work out, everybody just takes a step back and just shakes hands and goes all right, well, we tried. No skin in the game.
Right.
Nobody's I've known you for 10 years. How could you? That doesn't, you don't got to worry about anybody feeling like hurt or like worrying about like leaving anybody out. And like I think like just experimenting with working with literally anybody that I feel like it has been creatively like the best thing for me, to just be like, I don't feel like I owe anybody anything, and I'm going to go roll up and record a song anywhere that somebody's like interested in doing it and has a cool idea.
I agree. I guess it's kind of like there is more freedom. There is more like solo, self-made people. I think the trade-off is it's harder to stand out. You know, it is.
And there's it's like starting over. Like there's no fucking, there's no like, this is just another thing of the thing you already like. It's like, no. And if something that I made sounds exactly like it could have been like my band, then I feel like I'm like, then I almost kind of feel like I'm fucking up, because it's like,
right.
No, this isn't like, that feels like cheating, or like, you know, kind of like cheap. Like it's like a cheap fix or something. Like if you're gonna go do something separately, you know, it's like I always think about like fucking Danzig going from like Misfits to like this like weird like sex god fucking like weird dark, you know, like now I'm Danzig, and I was like, oh, like he really fucking, you know, he really went for this like fucking crazy grandiose like more metal sound. Like that's that. I feel like that's an exciting example of somebody like just going for it and saying fuck it and doing their own thing. Whereas like, not to name names, but like there's definitely like people that were in bands that like they're like, I'm solo now, and then like you press play and you're like, well, that would just be the shittiest record your band ever made.
Should have just lied and said you were still a band.
Yeah, like that would just that would have sold. It would have fucking sold, and everything would have been fine, and you could replace whoever you want. But like, there should be a difference in sound if you're like really ending an era and like starting anew. Yeah. So like, hopefully, you know, I'm not totally just. I don't. When I like listen back to the stuff I'm making, it doesn't feel like I just like replaced band members and like, you know.
No, it's totally different. I can say
it feels like I'm kind of taking a stab at like something that might not be for people that like only like my band, and it might be for somebody who's, you know, just heard about me yesterday and whatever.
Yeah, ideally you want both routes. You want people that were, you know, fans
of the
old
days,
fans of the old days of what you do now, and then fans that stumble on the new thing and then go back to the old catalog. You want both.
Yeah.
Ideally. It doesn't always happen, but you want both.
Yeah, man. Hopefully, like there's a lot of great examples. Like I look at like people like Joan Jett and like being in like the Runaways, and like people don't even think about the band that she was in when she was a kid. It's like they just think about like her success as like a fucking solo artist, and it's like there's a lot of great examples, and I'm just like, fuck, that's what I'm trying to do, and it's like it's harder, and people might not it's not comfortable, or like it's not like something that's I don't know. People, fucking fans have a tough time with this stuff. Like they really have a tough time with it, unless it works out really great and a lot of people love it, and then they go, yeah. And then they're like, yeah, I always rocked with you, dude. I fucking knew it was like, all, you know, I knew you still had it in you. Good stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, motherfucker. We had this conversation like 2 months ago.
Oh boy.
So we'll see if that moment comes. But so far, dude, I couldn't be more happier with this song, and, you know, happier to work with people like Jay, that fucking a bunch of people that I met online, dude, that were just like, yeah, I'll do a video. I'll pop out. You want to send me some footage? I'll edit it. You want to come out to here? Like, and I'm like, yeah, dude, I'll go anywhere to make anything cool. Like, if it's going to be cool and like we're both going to try as hard as we can, I'll fucking go anywhere.
Yeah. That's how you have to be. I mean, you can either be destroyed by this new method of communication, or you can, you know, build a new relationship, you know, which is cool. Because I was going to ask how you met him, Jake Hurstmill. I've been seeing his work pop up. I haven't, you know, seen anything besides the Leftovers, but I see it out there, and I'm like, well, that's why I know who both those guys are. Like, that's cool, you know.
Yeah, and I think he just heard me in like Low Rise's trailer for Mass State Lottery, and he was like, oh, I'll follow this guy. Oh, he's got some cool songs. And then he had a short film, and he was like, hey, can I use a few songs? And I was like, you look like you're a great director, dude. You want to work together sometime? And he was like, yeah. So I was like, here's the songs. I'll come down to you sometime. And he was like, I'll be ready. And went down to Nashville and fucking, that was like, but it's like, you know, you have a conversation and you do somebody a favor a year ago. And then it's like, okay, our schedules just lined up. Fuck it. Like, pull the trigger, make the trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's the way to do it, man. I mean, people can gripe, complain about what doesn't exist and what can't exist anymore. You know, it's like, well, try it. See if it can't exist anymore, you know? Like, and that's a good way to, when a bunch of people come to that same conclusion, it's good to at least try to get a line of communication going between those people, because
Totally.
not everybody's going to be receptive to a lot of the stuff that, you know, at least speaking for myself, that I believe in. So I got to at least find some like-minded people and do that. So, well, like I said, everybody check out the video on YouTube of Leftovers, Mario Cuomo, directed by J. Curtis Miller. And now if you're coming here to us for the first time, we have a Substack. That's where Psi's writing is at, and our premium episode feed, which is really cool. We cover a lot of literature and stuff like that. And yeah, well, on that note, guys, everybody have a safe week. Mario, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, have a good one, guys.
That was a blast. Have a good night, guys.